Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Audio Product Development Alliance. I'm Roger Shively from Shively Acoustics International, and this is the APDA, your gateway to audio product development. Today's topic is sound bubbles and personalized audio in each car seat. And joining us today from BdSound is Fabio Cagnetti, co-founder and chief operating officer. Ciao, Fabio.
Ciao, hello everyone. Thank you.
In addition to Fabio, online with us from the APDA is Dave Lindberg from DB Enterprises and the THD Podcast. And also from Link Play is Steve Willenberg. Hello, Steve. Hey, Dave.
Hi, Roger. How are you? Hi, Fabio. Good to have
Hello.
you aboard.
Yeah. And our media partner from Audio Express is Audio Express, and that is Joel Martin. We thank them for that support. And we also want to thank Adam Levinson from Levinson Consulting. So if you don't know, the APDA, the Audio Product Development Alliance, is the only organization that's focused exclusively on audio product development education, providing current relevant content that can be experienced in person, online, and on demand, combined with valuable cross-industry knowledge sharing. The APDA serves as a networking hub for the audio industry, offering access to experts like today and colleagues is also from professional development. So the APDA is where we come to learn how to build relationships and build better audio products. And here we talk about design, measurement, simulation, supply chain, manufacturing, automotive applications, headphones, earphones, wireless technology, and we even touch on industry standards. And we'd like to also thank Spencer for supporting us today with this production of the live talk. We are recording this as well, but if you can't watch all of it now, you can check it out on our YouTube channel, and you can share it there, like it, and join us often. And if you like, you can request, well, we'd like to have you join our WhatsApp group if you can. We'll be watching that during this event, as well as the chat in the YouTube channel. But if you care to join our WhatsApp group, there it is for you. You can also check us out on our website, and you can leave questions there in the APDA live chat, or you can send us, if you want, you can send us an email to apda90210 at gmail.com, and just use the subject line mailbag, and we can answer those as well. So please join us, and if you have anything, go ahead and send us a message in either way, and we can pass it on to Fabio. So Fabio, welcome again. And so you are the co-founder of BdSound. And it's great to have you here. And I think it'll be great to have, get a chance for you to share with us a little bit of how you created these solutions for in every seat, and where the vehicle functions as an independent environment for like a fully personalized media zone, a multimedia zone. It's tailored for each listener. That'll be great to hear and see how that's happened, how that came to be, and maybe some of the things that you've experienced as you put these into systems around the world. So with that, maybe we'll get started a little bit. You can give us a little bit of where you came from, how you got there, and we'll jump in.
Sure. Thank you again. So just for those who doesn't know about BdSound, we are an Italian company developing technology for voice processing with the aim to enhance the experience, the voice experience in the car. Whether if it is a human-to-human communication like calls, conferencing, and so on, or human-to-machine that are interactions with voice assistants. Um, you said a very interesting point. I mean, you mentioned multimedia, and that's one of the very interesting points because, um, you know, cars are dramatically changing in the last period. They are becoming, they are not anymore just a tool to use to move from one place to another one. We leave cars more and more sometimes unfortunately because there is a lot of traffic. But with the advent, of, for example, self-driving cars or, aided driving cars, um, we will have more time to do something else in the car. So what can we do in the car? We can talk, we can work, we can enjoy multimedia content, we can play, uh, and that's very important. I mean, um, cars are becoming a moving space to live, right?
Yeah.
So it's not our bed, it's not our sofa. We are not alone in the car. We are going to share our space with other person. In the likest cases, those persons are our friends, our relatives, and so on. But for example, for sharing cars, you have people in your car that you don't know before, right?
Yeah.
So it's so important that technology provider like BdSound and others work to enhance the experience of enjoying multimedia content, voice content in the car, creating a personalized experience seat by seat. Because for sure, there is one thing that we cannot do in the car up to now: walk. We just remain sit. So it means that fortunately we know the position of each person in the car. We are not on the coach, on the bus, right? So what can be done? Um, I think that we have to distinguish between two main experiences that we can have in the car. The first one is multimedia content. Multimedia content is what I used to call a one-way experience. I mean, we listen to music, we watch a video, but we don't communicate with the device, right? Because we are just enjoying listening, watching. And there is another kind of experience that I used to call it two ways. That is communications, right?
Mm.
When you communicate, at the end, you are going to leverage both the loudspeaker systems and the microphone system in the cars, right?
Right.
And now, here comes the challenge. Because when you have microphones and loudspeaker in the same acoustic environment, they interact. That interaction creates new challenges in the cars, right? For now, everything was easy because it was like a single, let me say easy, yes, but easier. It was a single environment with loudspeakers and microphone, and it was considered like a unit, right? But now we are going to create like subunits in the car. So it's the same acoustic environment, and we want to create virtual sub environments in the car. That's a big challenge.
Mm.
So the challenges, when you began this idea, was it something that you had intended to be in a car to begin with, or was it something that lent itself to this unique environment when you first began uh, with developing the idea and the concept? Did it become a car-centric thing from the beginning?
Well, yes. Just this because our background in terms of company, we are used to develop our new technologies mainly for automotive and
Oh,
then
okay.
apply the technologies to other verticals.
Hmm.
And we are very active, for example, in the video conferencing equipment.
Oh,
It's a
okay.
very important business for us, to be honest. But we decided to first face probably the most challenging environment, that is the cars, and then apply the technology to different verticals. So yes, when we start developing some technology that I'm going to tell you today, we were focused on cars, right?
Right.
So we strongly believe that um, to get the best, to provide the best experience to cars user, it's important that all the technology provider works together, tightly together, to create a very harmonized solution. So what is the current situation in modern cars? For example, when you have loudspeakers on doors and so on, it's pretty complicated to create the acoustic zones, right? But with the advent of headrest speakers that are becoming more and more popular, right?
Mm.
It's
Right.
it's some way easier to create listening areas, right? Because you have loudspeakers very close to your ears, and that's one point. But yes, so what happened when it comes to voice? For example, imagine that you are in your car as a driver and you are having a hands-free calls, and on the rear seats you have your kids playing and being noisy, or
Yeah.
anyone else, and maybe you have the passenger that needs to keep going, having his phone call, right?
Hmm.
So it's like the now currently the hands-free call is disturbed by the other people in the cars. So we start developing a technology that we call microphone bubble to create captures bubble. That was our first step. Captures bubble means microphones bubble. So imagine that you can selectively capture only the voice of each specific passenger in the car, filtering out the other voices and, of course, the noises. So this means that the callee party, that is the guy that is, for example, calling at the car from outside the car, will not listen the other passenger talking, will not listen the other person in the rear seat talking. It would be a very private conversation. That's one way, recording way. The other ways, of course, is to be able to listen to the phone call without disturbing, without that this phone call disturbs the others, because otherwise it would be, the volume war. Everyone rise its own volume, and that's the other point. The other way, the rendering, the play, the loudspeakers way. Let me say. It's with the combination of these two technologies that you can really create sound bubbles. That is the most general idea of creating personalized experience in the car.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so you're talking you're mentioning that there's a difference, so you can isolate sound. Do you have any metrics that you put on to how much you can? Is it just so that there's no noticeable awareness of the sound coming from, say, the back seat, or from? Is it also the passenger seat to the driver's seat? I'm assuming as well. Is there somehow a way that you measure or put a metric on how much that you are isolating that particular person, giving them the privacy that they need?
And
Okay.
to extend that question too, Fabio, can you explain a little bit more about the limitations, within the vehicle? Because that's, I'm sure, is interesting to, a sedan is going to be much different than an SUV.
Right. So there's positive things that you know where everybody is, but then you have different vehicle environments. So there's a couple of
Right.
questions there between Steve and I. But yeah,
Sure, sure. And
what are the limitations? But then, is there a way that you can measure the isolation as well? So.
that thank you, because those are two very interesting questions. So let's start with limitations. Um, Let me say, um, when you want to add a technology like this one in the car, you always have to consider that, let's talk freely, um, even adding one microphone might be too much expensive. I know it's $51, $2 or whatever, but there's a lot following just the placing the microphone. It's involved with the design of the interior, the cabling, and so on.
Mm.
So when we started developing this technology, we set some constraints. One was, we don't want to use a large number of microphones, just to make it easy to be adopted. Second, we don't want to be strict in terms of microphone positions. Also, this is a pretty, let me say, business consideration, also to be able to make a retrofit with existing cars, you know? And third consideration was, we don't want to be strictly depending on the interior acoustics, because you can measure it, but it will always change. It depends on how many people are in the car. It depends on the state of the glass and so on. It depends if you have your rooftop. It depends on a lot of variables. So you cannot pretend to make like a tuning, something like that.
Mhm.
So Steve, the idea was to let's work to create a solution that is robust against the placement of the microphones and the interior vehicle acoustics. Of course, what helped us in doing this? Because we leverage on what we believe to be an optimal blend of traditional digital signal processing that are that is very efficient and so on, and AI, artificial intelligence. So when we start developing this technology, we use both these two parts. We don't fully rely only on artificial intelligence. We don't do only with DSP, but we merge this. We try to create an optimized solution that is able actually to be to have that level of flexibility. Okay, so actually, I think it's very important. And last consideration about the number of microphones. As I told, it might be challenging to ask an OEM to put 8 microphones, 10 microphones, 12 microphones, right? It's not just the cost of the microphone, it's the complete, the wide implications that have on the car interior. So the golden rule we adopted and we reached that result is one microphone, one bubble. So at the end, if in the car you want to create, for example, 4 microphone bubbles, you have just to put 4 microphones. And you can put on the pillars, you can put just centered on the roof of each seat, or you can put in the middle, and so on. That was the idea, basically.
That's so that you're not dependent on the acoustics. Well, taking a measurement of the acoustics, which will change, but you're using something in the environment with a single microphone, which is unique, I think, because typically there is an array or some form of steering that goes on.
Yeah.
So as much as you can, without revealing too much, I guess, but how is it that you take a single microphone and create a single bubble out of that? How are you analyzing the environment and creating that bubble space with a single microphone? It seems pretty unique.
Okay, let's explain in this way. Of course, if you have just one microphone in the car, you can have just one bubble, let me say, that is the
Yeah.
whole car. So at the end, if you want to have have 2 bubbles, that is the minimum, you need 2 microphones. The point is that we don't use traditional beamforming technology, right? Because if you have a microphone that are 60, 80 centimeters far from each other, how can you do beamforming in that way?
Right.
But all the microphone signals are recorded, let me say, are delivered to our processing block, and we are able to process all the 4 microphones together and create 4 zones. So it's like there's a matrix of computations, let me say, that combine all the signals coming from all the microphones. And then after you have, let me say, 4 outputs, it's each for one bubble.
And Fabio, you leveraging the processing power within the vehicle itself, or do you require a separate processor that you use? Can you go into that area just a little bit?
Yeah. No, we don't need any additional processor. We don't need accelerator. We don't need the DSP. Of course, we can use DSP. You can just use the standard processor you have in your IVI, and believe me, it's not that demanding. I mean, it's something that you can easily integrate in normal IVI. You don't need. It's because I think you understood what were our driving constraints. Make a solution easy to be adopted. Of course. So we work a lot to have a very optimized solution. So and also I mentioned when for example we work to support the classical two microphones spaced 4 or 5 centimeters or 7 or 8 centimeters in the mirror rear, right? So because it was also to be able to apply a retrofit to existing cars, but existing cars had, I mean, let me say, old AI system. So you have to work with maybe uh, old generation processors that are not that powerful like the most recent one. So that was so important.
Yeah, and then yeah, I'm sure you're continuing to evolve and develop for new features and functions. Is it backwards compatible through an OTA type of update in the vehicles?
Of course. I mean, we are not safety critical. I mean, our voice processing is not safety critical, at least in the cars.
Right.
But so if the system support OTA and if this is possible, of course it is possible to deploy. And we have to consider this because as the EV paradigm is becoming more and more popular, so you have to be ready for that, right? So yes, it's absolutely possible.
In the
Okay.
SDV, you're talking about software-defined vehicles, which have been growing in number, but also the challenges grow with that. But
Yeah.
Dave, did you have a question earlier? I was gonna.
Just thinking of deciphering what's going on here. So there's one mic per person. So if we put two people in the car, do we get a better voice pickup clarity versus having four people trying to talk at the same time?
Okay, so let me say, if you put that's a very smart question, Dave. Thank you. So if you put two microphones, you can pick up two zones, right, in the cars. So
Right.
typically, maybe you pick up the two guys in the front rear, in the front row, right?
Right.
It's pretty typical. So, but that's an important point. The microphones that we use are traditional microphones, omnidirectional microphones. So at the end, if you get the stream out from the microphone, you have an omnidirectional microphone that is able to pick up everyone in the car, right?
Right.
So what is important is that you have the microphones placed in the bubble you want to create. That means, for
Right.
example, with two microphones, you are able to create two bubbles in the front row. I'm sorry, guys, in the front rows, and you don't create the bubbles in the rear row. Even if with some kind of tuning, it's possible to extend, let me say, at some level, okay, the shape of this bubble. So you can also extend it to the rear row seat and so on. But that, I mean, if you want, it's what we see currently is that it's pretty common to have to want to have two microphone bubbles in the front seat and less common in the rear seat. I forgot to mention, well, to be honest, I also forgot to reply to Roger questions about the matrix. And I
Oh,
will
yeah.
do it soon, I promise, Roger.
Okay.
But don't forget the big advantage that the microphone bubbles can provide in terms of voice assistant interactions, right? Because imagine that you want to have that's less common, but it's possible. You want to have simultaneous voice assistant interaction. For example, the passenger on the right rear seats want to increase their own temperature, right? And the driver wants to ask for directions for a specific location.
Mm-hmm.
It's possible in this way, without messing the voice commands. And that's another big advantage. Furthermore, as I said before, we don't walk in the cars. It means that we know perfectly where is the driver, right?
Right.
We don't need to, let me say, understand the person in that place, but we know that in that bubble there is the driver. So, for example, OEM can enable the driver to say some commands and disable those commands to the other passengers. For example, you want to open the roof, maybe only the driver can decide to do it with the voice commands. So there's a lot of possible application, and day by day we learn a lot from our customers because they know how to use that more. They know sometimes more than us how to use in the real application.
Yeah. So does that imply that there would be a hierarchy then in terms of if you're opening the windows from the driver's seat versus opening the windows from the passenger seat,
Yeah.
the driver gets the higher priority?
It's not. It's not priority.
Mhm. Yeah.
If you think about concurrent voice assistant interaction, it's not priority. It's just distinguishing. So if the
Mhm.
driver, let's do this example. Let's suppose that the driver said, "Okay, lower my window." Okay, first, you can be sure that only the driver window will go down and not the rear passengers. And the same apply to the rear passenger. If the rear passenger say, rise my windows, only that window will, because the microphone bubble can say, okay, it was the rear passenger on the right say that. So the application software can immediately create this connection.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think Steve, I think you were asking something different. I think you're getting at something that's not necessarily BD Sound's business, but it's the priority in terms of the safety in the car. The driver would, you might put that into the operating system that the driver has superior, the first choice. Let's say that, Fabio. I think
Yeah,
that's what,
okay.
yeah, he's
Yeah.
he's the boss.
Okay.
Yeah, correct, Steve. This is absolutely correct. I mean, and as Dave say, it's something that is the integrators that can decide the business logic of the car, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
We give the tools,
Yeah.
the
No,
flexibility.
that
yeah,
makes
BD.
sense.
Oh yeah.
And then I know the other question that I've got before I unfortunately do have to leave is from adjacencies. I know you're big into conferencing and in that vertical, if you will. Do you see your technologies migrating to other verticals?
Wow. Sure. Okay, I'll give you an example. Have you ever experienced how frustrating it is going to a train station, buy a ticket to the automatic machine, and need to, type the ticket for the destination? Okay. And you have to find the station. Okay, let's imagine you just go in front of the ticket vending machine and you ask, give me a ticket first class to Rome. Stop. It could be very fast interaction, right? But what happens if you have a row of 20 vending machines? It might be a mess. You buy a ticket for someone else, and it could be crazy. Or if you have, or if you are in, let me say, in front of a vending machine, you want to order a coffee, and someone behind you asks for a cappuccino just because he's stupid and wants to play, or maybe just because someone talking just close to you or to the other vending machine. Yes, creating capture microphone bubbles has a lot of possible applications, including vending machines, including video conferencing, and so on.
Yeah.
Every time you want to make sure that the microphone catch only the voice of the person you want to capture, microphone
Mhm.
bubble is useful.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
So
the technology just seems like it's at its infancy and the verticals are endless.
we hope so.
Yeah. And I think this is a good way of maybe clarifying what we are talking about because this is a bubble you're creating. We've had a previous discussion about multi-zone audio where you've got audio going on in two different zones and you're trying to, that's maybe where my question of metric came from, but how much you can you know, keep a distance between the two sounds overlapping. But what you're talking about is there's a person who has a priority, whether it's the driver or somebody else, and they have their own bubble and they can do things inside that bubble. And that's what you're concentrating on. You're not necessarily saying, I'm going to have more than one. If I have two mics, then I can have two bubbles. But if I have one and I have a person it's close, it's inside of that bubble, I can control that bubble. How big, I mean, it sounds like it's variable based on the number of microphones and bubbles that you create, how big could that bubble be for anybody? You said you could stretch it and change it a little bit, but is it mostly about the size of the space around our head that you create a bubble, or how do
Well,
you create it? It depends on the
okay.
microphone position too, I think.
No, that's a very interesting question. Again, thank you, because I love the question you're asking me, because it makes me possible to talk about this technology. I'm very proud, and I love
Please, yeah,
to
we want to
reply.
hear it. We want to hear it.
So, correct, Roger. The microphone bubble has, okay, with the supported limitations, let me say, in terms of microphone placement, that are pretty reasonable. You can have closed microphones, you can have microphones just in front of the seats, you have on the pillars. You can create actually bubbles that are literally that divide the space in the car.
Right.
Okay, if you look at and the let me say on the seats actually have this. For example, that's a very
Hmm.
interesting, yeah, but it's related to your question. A possible
Right.
application is what we call acoustic fence.
An
Because
acoustic
if
fence,
you
is that what you said?
move around out of the bubble, you actually like have a fence, right?
Okay.
And when we do the demo, sometimes we do this. Imagine, for example, you are a teacher, you are having an online lesson on the whiteboard. So you have to be in the whiteboard space. You can cancel the tapping of the pen on the whiteboard. It would be That's another possible application, for example,
Hmm.
as was asked before. So yes, and roughly, let me say the space is like you divide half the space on that axis, and also you roughly half divide the space on the other directions if you have also the microphone, for example, in four vertex on of a square, for example. So it's pretty flexible, and there is possibility to shape. For example, if you want to create, and also another important consideration is about the, let me say, the level of uh, bubble attenuation, okay, with respect to the position. Of course, if you add more microphones, and some application might require this, you can have steeper, is it correct? More steeper, sorry.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
okay, steeper fences,
Ah,
you
okay.
know? So it's okay. I would like to invite everyone to come to test this. I mean, we will have, for example, a demo car at the CES. So you're
Hmm.
super welcome to step into the Audio Foundry booth, where we set up this demo car together with our partners. There are several technologies all packed in the car, so it will be a very interesting experience. Audio Foundry booth at West.
It's in the West Hall, yeah, yeah.
Yes,
So,
exactly.
so what will you have in the car that you can demonstrate? Will you be switching between different ones, or will they be continuously operating? Will you be demonstrating, oh, here's a bubble with one person and two people, or what all will you demonstrate for everyone so they can get a
Oh,
feel for what it means and what it feels like?
okay. In terms of a general demo, we will demonstrate the upper level of personalized audio, so both multimedia and voice. Also,
Hmm.
with dedicated sound zones, seat by seat, also for listening, right? In terms of specific BD sound technology, it will be possible to first enjoy a phone call, and you can also play with a tablet where you can see the seats and selectively decide to switch on and off the bubbles. Okay,
Okay.
and you can also switch on and off audio processing. We will add road noise. We will add music from the radio, and when you switch on the processing, you will hear everything disappearing, and so on.
So you're
Okay.
you're also getting road noise cancellation in this bubble. So that's part of what you're doing is not only you can listen to the phone call that's inside the bubble, but anything that's outside is being reduced or canceled.
Okay, okay. This is an important information to provide. When we talk about road noise cancellation, we talk about canceling the noise that is listened in the vehicle, right?
Okay.
So while we cancel the noise that is recorded by the microphone, let me say the road noise cancellation benefits are for passengers. Our microphone bubbles technology, in terms of noise cancellation, look, the benefits are for the colleague party that is outside the car. So it's different. So it should not be called road noise cancellation. Let me say, we cancel the road noise as captured by the microphones.
Right.
Okay, so it's a slightly different. And yes, and so so you can interactively decide which bubble switch on and off, as well as also have the voice assistant interaction.
Okay.
So that
So will there be mostly voice control that you're going to be dealing with inside of the car, or would you, when you create these fences, and depending on how high the fence is, can it also, it'll be based on the voice content, but could it also be music uh, on the other side of the fence that you can't hear, or
yes,
is
yes.
just,
For example, if the passenger is listening his own music on
Mhm.
his seat, the
Yeah.
driver microphone will not send that music to the outside phone, for example. Yes.
Okay. Okay, so I understand. So this is your ability to communicate outside of the vehicle. Does it help see, I'm the driver of the car.
Mhm.
My passenger is listening to some music in the car. Am I in the bubble that you create? It's the processing of through the microphone that you're really controlling. So you're controlling the background noise that doesn't get processed into the microphone. In the car itself, does it benefit the person sitting in the bubble at all? Does he get a fence that is not going to interrupt his listening pleasure or his ability to hear the
That
person on the other end of the phone call?
I understood your question. I mean, the benefits in the listening part
Hmm.
that I again invite everyone to come will be provided by our partners there at the booth. I mean, that demo car was done together with other companies, and
Yes.
each company is super specialized in some specific part. We are the voice company, let me say. There are companies that specialize in headrest speakers, companies that are specialized in the acoustics equalization of the vehicle. So I and with this, it's really you have an attenuation from one seat to another seat and so on. It's like a more complex demo because, as
Yeah.
I said at the beginning of this call, it's so important that technology provide a cooperate to create an experience, a great experience for the user.
Right. So I think Roger, you helped illustrate something that wasn't quite clear is that, and I think Fabio, you said this, but we weren't maybe paying attention close enough. But it's the receiver call that has better clarity on the person in the bubble. And that's what BD Sound's delivering. The ability
Excellent.
to isolate like one playback bubble for person here versus that's not your specialty, but there's other partners that can do that.
Exactly.
Okay, okay.
Exactly.
Okay. And we have a question. Um, is it easier to do this in a Fiat or a Ferrari?
Well, okay. To be honest, there. I mean, let me say, when you deal with super sports cars that are noisy,
Yeah.
you have this big challenge of high noise.
Mm,
Okay.
yeah.
And we honestly, BdSound is very expert in super sports car environment. We have
Mhm.
a long track of implementation in super sports car. So when we start developing our technology for voice communication, our suite that is called Simply Sounds Clear, we had to start immediately to deal with these crazy super sports cars.
Mhm.
For example, when we integrated first time Alexa in a vehicle, we were
Yeah.
the first company integrating Alexa out in a vehicle.
Well, this
Uh,
is good to know too. Yeah. This is your
yeah,
history. This is your background. This is good to know. Yeah.
and it was a Lamborghini Huracan. And you can find the interview we had with Amazon and the other partners that participated to this amazing project. But as you can imagine, how could be challenging having a good phone call in a Lamborghini? I mean, I know if you drive a Lamborghini, probably you are very concentrated on driving, probably. But if you want to, or if you want, for example, in that case, there would be Alexa, right? So you want to interact with Alexa, and Lamborghini is a very noisy car,
Hmm.
So you have to deal with this kind of, let me say, challenge of a high noise. And since we have to face these kind of challenges since from the beginning, to be honest, our technology is very robust against a high level of noise. So basically, we can manage very negative signal to noise ratio. Okay, so that means that the voice signal is less energetic than the noise signal. That is crazy, but it's something that happened at cars.
Hmm.
And okay, and what about the let me say the opposite side, traditional cars? Traditional cars are usually less noisy, and you challenge with traditional cars maybe more constraints in terms of let me say development cost, in terms of what you can put in the car. Okay, but again, modern cars are becoming better and better. Even let me say the small cars have now very good acoustics, right? Good insulation and so on. So I could say that yes, super sports cars are in general more challenging than traditional cars.
And that was your first solution too. So I have to assume that when you get to, I took the opposite extremes there of Fiat versus Ferrari, but if you get into a 500 Fiat, it's, it has its own noise, but it's different.
It's different,
Uh,
yeah.
but it's also possible, and it sounds like the challenge of, say, a Ferrari or a Lamborghini is something you've already accomplished, and now it's just a question of applying it to maybe the architecture of where the microphone is, and the challenge doesn't become so much the noise, but the application. I mean, what the challenge is with where the microphone is or the quality of that microphone, because everything is on a cost budget. Is that usually what you find out when you go from, no
It's
budget to serious budget?
No, I mean, you should consider more that the biggest constraints are to touch the car design, right? So
Mm,
maybe for some kind of design and so on, you have microphone in a very uncomfortable positions and so on.
right.
But
Yeah.
again,
Yeah.
as I said, that was one of the first questions. Uh, uh, when we start to develop this technology, we immediately took in consideration the possibility to retrofit existing cars.
Right.
I mean, so actually we are able to uh, provide this technology also to traditional cars, let me say cheaper car than a Lamborghini or whatever. I mean, a
Hmm.
kind of or a Ferrari. So it's possible, of course. And you also mentioned one important point: different type of noise. I mean, we don't need specific training on the noise type of the car, because our AI engine was already trained with a lot of noises. And also, we have the ability to, in some way, but I don't want to tell you a lot of secrets, sorry. In some
No.
way, we are able to auto adapt. Let me say, it's really self-adapting the solution.
Well, you did give us an answer to one question. So was it always an AI engine that you were using, or was that developed when AI became more tangible? Let's put it that way. When you were doing the Ferrari, was it an AI approach, an artificial intelligence, machine learning type of approach, or was it simply this solve the problem that I have at hand, or did it actually learn as it was going and adapt?
As I said, we I believe we found the right balance between DSP technologies
Hmm.
that are less demanding in terms of CPU, in terms of RAM or ROM, of course,
Yeah.
and artificial intelligence. I think this is one of the footprint of our technology. I mean, it's a balanced blend of artificial intelligence and and traditional DSP technology. So in this way, we don't overload the processor, but we can leverage also on the flexibility that an optimized network can provide to voice processing.
Got it. So if you say it's so you can fit on, you don't need an external processor. So you could say whatever processor exists in the command unit, whether it's the head unit or whatever they want to call it, with the audio system that exists in the car. You don't have to use a separate processor. You can use something that is simply there for the audio unit that's sitting in the car, whether it actually has an external power amplifier or DSP. You can use the existing DSP, whether it's some sort of ARM-based setup or whatever it may be. That's,
Okay, so I got, okay, we have to distinguish this. Okay, if
yeah.
you look at a traditional audio chain in a car, you might have the central unit with the main processor that is running, for example, the smartphone replication,
Hmm.
CarPlay, and so on, and all the
Yeah.
multimedia features. You can also have an external audio power amplifier.
Right.
Okay,
Hmm.
it's very important in this case, and everyone that works in this area know it, that um, the process the processing of the voice need to get the signal, exactly the signal that are provided to the loudspeakers. So currently it is necessary to have the signal provided to the loudspeakers.
Right.
So after the processing of the external audio amplifier, for these reasons, and external audio amplifier manufacturer knows it perfectly, for the reason the reference channel, what they are so-called the reference channel, are routed back to the infotainment unit. So let me say the voice processing, because otherwise you don't know what is the actual signal that loudspeakers play.
Right.
Because if you run your software in the infotainment unit and you don't know what's happening cascaded, you
Yeah.
don't have the signals in the loudspeaker, and they are necessary because, as explained before, it's a two-way system, the voice processing, because it involves loudspeakers and microphones.
Right.
So you have to sense all the signals. So that's why it's pretty common, let me say 99%, to load the voice processing in the infotainment unit rather than
Mm.
on an external unit. So you just use the same processor you use for the multimedia playback, used for routing the signal, used for the chimes or whatever, for phone calls, for voice assistant, for CarPlay, for Android Auto, and so on. So that's the most convenient processor to use in the car.
Okay. So you are sitting as a piece of software on existing hardware or firmware.
Yeah,
You're added to the firmware and you're just using the available information and then processing it and sending it back. But you don't necessarily need a large CPU type of a device to do it.
absolutely no. And the reason is so easy. We want to sell a lot of this technology. So we had to make it easy to be used.
Yeah, well, that's a great approach. It's hard to do that sometimes. You've found a way to do it, clearly, and I think the experience that you will provide everybody in CES will probably help them understand it better too. So, and I think we got an update on your booth at 7330 in the
Correct.
West
You're
Hall. So,
super welcome, and you can book the demo. You can just step in, and we can organize it, of course.
I,
yeah,
I,
yeah.
I got a question into talking to the voice assistants. Now, if it's a voice assistant like CarPlay and you've registered Siri on your phone, is there any issue with the BdSound processing when you're trying to eliminate a lot of background noise? Does it still recognize the voice authorization and Siri going through your processing and then activating Siri through CarPlay?
Okay, that's a very great question, Dave. Look, okay, first, that's as an information for our attendees at this webinar. The most recent CarPlay specifications require that in some circumstances you have to run the wake up word engine on the infotainment unit. So the wake up word is the for example, Hey Siri.
Yeah.
I have to say, otherwise they started. So, so for example, the wake up voice that they activate the interaction, right? So now it's currently running on the infotainment unit, and it's true. The listening capability of a voice assistant is different from the listening capability of humans. Some audio signals that sounds good to us might not sound good to a voice assistant.
Right.
So, yes, of course, our processing for voice assistant is different from the processing for phone calls, for conferencing, and so on, because we have to take this in consideration. Our goal is not that it sounds good, but is that the voice assistant can understand it. And indeed, it's pretty common that if you just apply noise reduction to a microphone stream and you send it to the voice assistant, you might have a lower recognition rate, because noise reduction is a typical nonlinear processing and might affect and distort the voice signal. And why this is also guaranteed? Because, for example, you mentioned Siri. You know that any CarPlay integration need to be certified following the CarPlay specification that require some tests for hands-free calls and other tests for the Siri. There is some specific test you have to run. And if you want to say that that system is CarPlay enabled and certified, you have to pass those tests. So, and we grant that these tests can be passed. Yes.
Okay. Okay, cool.
Well, that makes sense because you're literally saying you're going to process the wake up word so that the wake up word could be picked up, and then the controls can be controllable. But when you're dealing with a voice communication with someone on a telephone, you're going to worry about
Deal.
quality, the voice quality. What I
Both
haven't
are
tried to,
different, correct.
yeah,
Mhm.
what I'm trying to think is there a way to have them happen at the same time? I don't think it ever does happen at the same time. So I don't know, because I was wondering if you could have a phone call and then ask Alexa to do something, but I don't think that happens, or Siri for that matter. So I don't think those are use cases, but that's pretty good. Now, this was very enlightening, Fabio. I have a better understanding now than I ever have of what you've managed to do and what you are doing and how it came about. I mean, you mentioned to us offline when we first started, you started with two of you, and now you have a group of 43 folks around or people working for you around the world. So is all of that in automotive, or is that some of that in what you mentioned in your conference
Okay.
room vertical,
Yeah, I
video
mean,
conferencing?
I want to give you some insight about the company. And we
Yeah.
are a technology developer company. So what is important for a technology developer company? To innovate. And
Hmm.
I know that is surprising. Our customers are pretty often surprised, but almost 50% of our engineering force work in innovation. Innovation means that they don't interact with customer and they just develop innovation technologies, algorithms. And their main customer, let me say, is the development team. That is the team dedicated to take the technology, transform in a product integrated into our suite, and support our customer in using it. So innovation is driven, of course, by research and a lot of cooperation we have, and also by the request from the customers, of course. We always sense what customer wants, and we drive the research in that direction. And so as I mentioned, we also work, for example, in video conferencing. So um, we try to optimize the innovation process to embrace all the largest number of verticals where we can apply the technology, right?
And it's a successful business case, it sounds like. I mean, if you can have 50% of your innovation, I mean 50% of your personnel working on innovation, then you have a good business case to support that. So it sounds like you've been very successful. So
It was a big challenge, but because I know that usually companies don't have that large percentage in
no.
poor research. But that's the decision we took. It was harder at the beginning, but I think today we are so happy about the decision of the path to follow.
Well, I think it keeps you relevant. I mean, you're constantly solving problems that you are anticipating or are quick to solve because you've been looking for new ways of doing it. That's actually a good thing in our industry. Um, you mentioned, and we have a few minutes left, you mentioned the idea of a software-defined vehicle. Is that, it's not absolutely necessary for you, but is it part of what you deal with more and more today, or does it matter if it is completely software defined? Like you said, you can reside on a piece of audio equipment that's already in the car. But do you see more and more development for software defined vehicles, or has that become something that is less mainstream in terms of the future development, or do you have a feel for that at all?
Okay, Roger. As you said correctly, um, it's less relevant for us
Mhm.
because mainly we are usually tier two, sometimes tier one, but usually we are tier two in this automotive chain. So SDV is more important for OEMs and tier one. Say that we have to consider this because SDV is has not just implication in terms of technology, but has a lot of implication in terms of commercials. It can literally redefine the way companies make business with cars,
Mm.
right? So we have to understand and to try to intercept the needs of those companies that are going to rely on SDV paradigm, on software-defined vehicle paradigm, both OEM and tier one. So yes, let me say that in terms of pure technology, it will impact just in terms that probably OTA will become more and more common practice. So we have to be ready for OTA and something like that. We are actually, but I think more ready. And the big, let me say, topic is about to imagine new way to make business with SDV at our level. That is
And you're a tier two, you're a software, you're sitting on someone else's chip or even in their own platform. So your financial stream changes, is what you're saying, right? And so
completely.
yeah. And if it's an OTA, perhaps I don't know if subscriptions are still viable, but perhaps it's a script. Are you a subscription ever? Does your technology come in as a subscription?
Okay, well, also that's another important point, and thank you again for this question. Look, there is a one important point. If you want to add, for example, a feature to your car,
Yeah.
I mean, a feature on the video, something like that. As soon as the video can support this feature, a streaming service, for example, you
Hmm.
can add it easy. But audio, unfortunately, or fortunately, I don't know, I would say fortunately, is still very connected to the car design
Yeah.
because loudspeakers are in certain position, microphone will be in certain position, you have to know the microphone and so on. So currently, I don't think that could be like an app. Let me say that you can download the microphone bubble from
Yeah.
the App Store, and you still have to work closely with tier one and OEM to deploy those content, this kind of content to the vehicle. But who knows?
Yeah.
If you were to develop it and it was residing and waiting for it to be used, because I understand if you don't know the environment, you may not know what the answer is. But if you've already developed it for, a line of vehicles inside of,
Yeah. Something you unlock.
then it could be unlocked. But that's a possibility. But I don't know if if that has really hit in audio as much as were wondering, because we always wondered if subscription-based audio features were viable
Mhm.
and if software defined vehicles are less mainstream, or maybe they will be later when economics of them are more viable. But yeah, it's an interesting.
And there is another point, another consideration, because it's fine with this consideration. For example, one of the core is the echo canceller. And one of the core technologies is the acoustic echo canceller. That is the part of the software that cancel out the sound that is played by the loudspeakers and captured by the microphones. And you know what is the best figure that let you know if the echo canceller is working? Is just that you don't notice that it's working.
Exactly
Because
right.
only if it does not work that you
Yeah.
know this is the, oh, I have an echo canceller that is not working, but it's working fine. It's completely transparent for you.
Yeah.
So why I'm selling this? Because it's harder to sell as, I mean, subscription additional feature, that kind of feature that are not tangible easily, you know.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. If it's a good way, and you could give it a trial run to say, oh, it is much better, and then I'll pay the price
Yeah.
because it makes my life better. Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah. We have come to the end of the hour, which is great. It was very good conversation. Thank you so much, Fabio. Like I said, I think I have a completer, more complete understanding of what you've managed to do and how you're doing it, and it's quite impressive. And we appreciate you
Thank you.
coming on with us today. Um, I know that you have the CES coming up, as we mentioned. You're part of the Audio Foundry, and you're going to be in their booth. There's a car there, and you're going to have your technology in that car that you can demo. And
Correct.
the booth number I was told was 7330 in the West Hall. So I have to check you out. Is there any place else you're headed after CES, which is coming up next month in January?
Sorry, that's the last question I didn't catch. Please, can you ask again?
No, I
Any
think I think there was a glitch in the stream here. But is there any place after CES that you have planned? Yeah.
Oh, well, we are planning different to attend different expos and so on. Also in the video conferencing market, and for sure will be AS in July. Automotive, in terms of automotive, AS
There
will
is
be.
the Automotive Audio Conference in Detroit at the end of July.
That's
So
for sure.
we're going to start promoting those more and more and more, but that'll be at downtown in Huntington Place. So anyone who's interested in automotive audio, please
Mhm.
keep your eyes open and your ears
Yeah,
open as well.
that's so interesting event.
Yeah.
So
Well, we're going to be happy to see you there. I appreciate that. And the APDA next coming up for us, we'll be at the CES also, so we'll be invading Dave's uh, Enterprise DB Enterprises suite on occasion, so you can look for us there. And he's in the Venetian Tower, soon to be. As soon as he knows where he'll be, he's in the tower, so don't worry. So look
Yeah.
for us there. And also coming up after uh, the CES for us on January 13th, we're going to have our next live talk with Com here and Misco together. That's Mike Bin and Dan Diggory. So we'll keep your eyes open for that as well. So we'll have that one coming up again right after. That's the Tuesday after the CES. So keep an eye open for that one. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. And then also, I'll just maybe say if we we are also we'll ask you to join us, become a member of the APDA. I'm going to put up a little slide for us to look at. And if you can join us or become a sponsor, we are a nonprofit organization, so we depend on the support of our sponsors and our members. So if you have a chance, come visit us and start to engage. But also, if you want to become a member and figure
Yeah.
out what that is, also
Get
become a
that
sponsor.
get that 2025 free membership while it lasts.
That's right. That's right. It's a good point. It won't be free forever. So, but like you say, we are a nonprofit, so we heavily depend on our membership and our sponsors to keep us going. We do have some events planned for next year that are pretty big in terms of growing that base that already exists. So once again, I'm going to say thank you to you, uh, Fabio. Thank you, Dave
Yep.
and Steve earlier. And join us again soon. And you can watch this anytime. It'll be up on our channel for as long as the internet exists. So you can check it out and download it, or if you want to, or just use the link and watch it again and again. Uh, and thanks one more time to Fabio. Thank you.
Yep.
And
thanks to
thanks for
everyone.
everyone. Okay, thanks for everyone out there who stuck through and has been watching. And please take care, and we'll say bye now.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.